You got something funny to say, Butler?
No.
I didn't think so. Because we're doing a little serious film tonight. Yeah. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Butler.
And I'm Mike Field.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the film simply didn't catch on with audiences in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or maybe don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy our podcast, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok with a backlog of over 200 episodes for your listening pleasure.
What's going on?
I watched I can't do my old usual spiel. I watched a movie.
We're getting a little bit serious in this episode. We're doing the 1984 war drama film, actually a British film, The Killing Fields, which is it's basically about centers in Cambodia around the time of the Vietnam War, towards the end of the Vietnam War, when the Cambodian National Army started waging a war against the Khmer Rouge, which was like a communist faction. Yeah. And Cambodia got amongst many things, got the raw end of the deal with the Vietnam War, and a lot of bad things happened in Cambodia, and the Americans did a lot of not so cool things. And it's not a fine time in the United States history. The Vietnam War is not a great time in the United States history in terms of policy and stuff like that. So not that we want to get too deep into that, but this film is about two journalists, Dith Pran, who is Cambodian, who works with Sidney Schamberg, who is a journalist from New York Times, and they kind of are covering this entire thing, and it kind of just goes through. This is a true story. It's based on a true story, and it kind of goes through just what happens. It's Dith Pran's story, and it kind of just follows him and what happens, and we'll get to what the Killing Fields mean. We'll get to all that stuff. So this is a film that I had never seen, that I always wanted to see. I think I talked about last episode where, like, if I don't put it on the list, it kind of gets me to see it. So I'm glad that we're doing this film. Mm-hmm. I don't anticipate a lot of people have seen this film nor would like to see this film. I would recommend it because I really liked it. I don't know how you thought about this film. I don't know. We'll get into we're
it.
We're doing it right now. Oh, that's right. That's right. Sorry, I got to get into the
you
facts.
Got facts to do.
I want to talk about it so much, but yeah, let me get into the facts, and then we'll get into all that stuff. Now, The Killing Fields has a runtime of 141 minutes. It's rated R, production budget of $14 million. Now, I said that it came out in 1984. I said that last episode, and I said it here. It did. It was a limited run in November. So, and it's a big Oscar film, and we'll get into that as well. But I didn't want to go from that because it was like 32,000 its opening week.
Well, yeah, a lot of movies. I'm surprised they were doing it that early, but a lot of movies do that now, where it's like the limited release right before Christmas.
Oh yeah, no,
to try to get it under the radar for the Oscars.
Now they do it like just to get it in there, like they squeeze it in. But like this one at least came out a good month and a half before. True, but it's also a British film, so technically it's a foreign film. You know what I mean? Yeah,
even though it stars in America.
Right,
yeah,
right. So I'm going by the wide release date here in terms of what it went up against. And that wide release date was February 1st, 1985, and had that weekend it did $3 million. Domestic and worldwide are the same, which I'm finding odd since we just talked about it was a British film. But anyways, it's 35 million.
Probably because it was a while ago, so you probably just can't get those kind of numbers.
Maybe.
Yeah,
so it's 35 million total it made in the box office. Production company was Goldcrest Films, International Film Investors, and Enigma Productions, and it was distributed by Columbia EMI Warner Distributors when they were all friends. It came out on the 1st of February in a wide release. So let's go back a week to January 25th of 1985. When that movie came out was The Perils of Gwendolyn in the Land of Yik Yak.
What?
I know. It stars Tawny Katane. So you can figure out what that is.
Okay.
You also had a limited release of Fandango and Tomboy. Fandango's a good film. The first, like I said, it went up against in a wide release, Heavenly Bodies, Tough Turf, and A Passage to India. You probably heard of A Passage to India, correct?
A Passage to India I've heard of, never seen, and I've also heard of Heavenly Bodies.
What do you think Heavenly Bodies is about?
I don't know. I just know it's a film.
Okay.
What is Heavenly Bodies about?
Well, I don't know. That's, you know.
You know.
I have no idea. The week after, the 8th of February, you had Mischief. These are wide releases as well. Heaven Help Us, Witness.
That's a good movie.
We did that movie. The Ford Finger, The Falcon and the Snowman, and Mrs. Soffel. This film was directed by Roland Joffe. It's actually his directorial debut. He was nominated. Well, wait a minute. Is that right? I think it is.
It's his feature film directorial debut.
Nominated for an Oscar for The Mission. He also did Fat Man and Little Boy and The Scarlet Letter. Written by Bruce Robinson, who's done Jennifer 8, In Dreams, and The Rum Diary. Cinematographer was Chris Menges, who's won an Oscar for The Mission. He was also nominated for Michael Collins and The Reader. Composer was Michael Oldfield. This is really the only kind of movie he composed. I think he's composed some shorts or whatnot.
Okay.
He's more known for that he wrote the music for Tubular Bells, which is the theme of The Exorcist.
Yes.
So that's what he's known for, and he's probably made a crap ton of money.
Mr. Halloween.
Exactly. So that's kind of, where his claim to fame, which, hey, that's great.
There's stuff in the score. Like it's a really like the score is all over the place is one of my notes, but the scene where they're developing the photo, it's like an 8-bit song.
Okay.
It could be on Nintendo. I was digging it.
The scene when the helicopters start flying over the embassy.
Yes.
That music, when it was
That
kicking
music
it,
was weird,
I'm
yeah.
like, all right.
That was very 80s,
that
good,
music I was digging too. Edited by Jim Clark, who's done The Mission. He was nominated for an Oscar for that. He did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The World Is Not Enough, a little Bond reference for Butler. Produced by David Putnam, who won an Oscar for Chariots of Fire because that won Best Picture. And it was nominated for an Oscar for The Mission and Midnight Express, both Best Picture nods. Sam Waterston. You may know him as, or I know him as DA. I'm going to break on his name.
Oh, I was gonna say I know what show he's from, but I don't know his
Law and
character's
Order.
name.
I'm blanking on
Do
his
you want me
name.
to look it up?
No,
and
no.
Try to think about it.
No.
2 hours later.
I believe in you.
Jack McCoy.
Oh,
I watched.
How many episodes have you watched?
I'm telling you, I must watch like 250 episodes of this show. I'll have it on just when I'm like working. It's on. It's in the background. Wow. Anyways, I guess I don't know him. He's also in the night. He plays Sidney Shamberg. He's the New York Times reporter I mentioned in the beginning. He's also the 1974 version of The Great Gatsby, and he's in the TV show Grace and Frankie, which is probably more of a newer show for some people. I'm going to butcher this name. I apologize. Haing S. Yeah, I think I got it. Plays Dith Pran. He's in Heaven and Earth, My Life, and Fortunes of War. John Malkovich as Al Rockoff. Nominated for 2 Oscars, In the Line of Fire and Places in the Heart. He's also in Rounders, to name a few. He's in a ton of movies.
And the movie being John Malkovich, if you could believe it.
And the movie that we did in season 2.
I can't remember that. I can never remember.
Coen Brothers film,
I
Burn
know.
After Reading.
Yes. And you know what's funny is I just saw the scene where he slaps Brad Pitt in the face on Instagram just last night.
Julian Sands plays John Swain, another journalist. Young Julian Sands.
Very young.
Yes. He's in Warlock, Naked Lunch, and Boxing Helena.
Who's also Jor-El on Smallville.
He is. Greg T. Nelson as he gets no name. He gets military attaché. He's in the 1980, the original Poltergeist. He's also in The Family Stone and the TV show Coach. And Spalding Gray as the U.S. consul. He's in Beaches, The Paper, and Kate and Leopold. And that's pretty much it. There's a bunch of other people in the movie, but they're really not. A lot of them aren't actors.
Not named characters.
No, and they're not really. Yeah, they're not really known. And honestly, we'd be here forever if I was just going to list them all out.
Right.
I said that this was an Academy Award movie, Oscar darling. This is nominated for 7 Academy Awards, Best Picture. It won for Best Film Editing and Jim Clark. It won for Best Cinematography and Menges. It was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. It nominated for Best Director. Haing S. won for Best Supporting Actor.
One of only 2 actors ever to win that weren't actually actors beforehand.
Correct. What was the other one?
A movie from the 40s about World War II soldiers coming home.
Oh, I
can't
think
remember the name of it.
I wasn't asking because I know.
It's like Herschel Park, I think was the guy's name.
And then Sam Waterston was nominated for Best Actor. So this film obviously was an Oscar darling, as they say. A very important film. I've already said that I like it. Butler, what'd you think?
Look, it got its butt kicked by Amadeus. No.
Salieri! Sorry.
I liked it. There are things I think, like you said, it's a very important movie to watch. I think it has a very important message. It's not a perfect film, but I can see why it gets the recognition it deserves. Obviously, the acting is fantastic. I think I say we're gonna do like some of the choices made filmmaking wise, not necessarily story wise, but filmmaking wise, I thought could have been done a little differently.
But
I think overall, it's a very good, very important movie with a powerful message.
Totally. What are the kind of the filmmaking comments?
I think the biggest one is how the film is split in half. Mostly works. There's something a little not jarring about it, but something I think, I don't know, maybe it's just a modern sensibility. I just think it could have worked better. But I do like that it tells 2 halves of the story. Because you talk about how it's Oh my God.
It's Death Prawn's
It's
movie.
Death Prawn's movie. But the beginning is really more Sydney's movie. Or we're
Right.
following Sydney.
We don't
with a
see
focus
Prawn.
on
We see Prawn really like he's there waiting for him at the
He's the Robin
airport.
to Shanberg's Batman
Right.
at that point.
Right.
And then the movie becomes Prawn's movie with like footage of like where we see Shanberg like racked with guilt later on.
Well, as soon as Prawn is forced
Once
to
Prawn's
leave the
forced
French
back-
embassy,
Yeah,
it's his
back into
movie.
Cambodia. It's
Yeah.
his movie for sure. I just don't know. Like I like the second half of the movie is where the movie really takes off.
Mhm.
But I just think that they could have split it a little differently. Like I don't like him reading letters that he clearly didn't get to write to Shanberg just to explain things. But my biggest gripe is something I love in the first half is not having captions. I love that you can't tell what the Cambodians are speaking. When they're speaking French, you can't tell. It raises the stake every time Sydney and Prawn and Al are being held by either the Cambodian nationalists or the Communist Party. They're held by both different parties and kind of at gunpoint just to prove who they are. You don't get the captions. You don't know what they're saying. It raises the stakes and it makes Prawn very important. And you feel that he's the one begging for their release when they're captured by I keep saying the
Khmer Rouge.
Khmer Rouge takes them the second time and they're kind of held for almost a full day. All three of them with Al.
When they buy him off at the Coke,
He buys them off the Coke.
Coca-Cola.
He's begging. The other guy doesn't want to respond. He's just eating rice. And you feel the tension.
Yeah.
And another guy
and
gets
he's
shot
just
in the
sitting
head right
praying.
there. He's
just sitting there
praying. He's like
please,
asking.
yeah.
And they're like yelling at him, but he keeps pleading. That's a great scene. But once we get to Prawn and it's Prawn's movie, I want captions. I don't care. I wouldn't be jarred by that. I now want to hear what they're saying. I want to get the story beats. And I can kind of tell what's going on. And I read the notes while I'm watching the movie, which helps. But I think the movie would be very much helped by actually being able to tell what conversations he's having the second half. And I don't think you're breaking your stylistic choice by letting us see that because you're no longer fueling tension with having this lost in translation feel, but you're losing important story beats, important emotion, important knowledge that I just am not getting because I don't have captions and I don't speak Cambodian.
Really?
I don't.
Or
I'm
French?
sorry. No.
Parlez-vous français?
I failed out of Spanish in high school, so I'm not very good with other languages.
I didn't mind that. I like the no subtitles, and I really didn't mind not having them in the second half of the film because, I mean, and you know this, you should be able to watch any movie without the sound.
I get that. Movies should be.
You should. It's a legit thing.
Yeah.
And I
Show, don't
think
tell.
I think that's why you have the voiceover to Sydney when Prawn is talking to him, because I think that's the important stuff you need to hear. And he's explaining what, like, for instance, when he's talking about when he's sitting, the guy comes down and he's like, all will be forgiven. All will be, everything's
right.
And you kind of, like, just let me know, if you want
You get what's going on.
Yeah. And they're raising their hands. Doctors
They
or
don't
doctor
want to,
here.
yep.
Because they're basically, they want the smart people, the intellectuals. They want to take them and they want to go shoot them and put them in the killing fields.
Yep.
So you get all that. So, and then you notice that, and then he says it like, I pretend I have to be dumb. I have to pretend I'm simple because they don't,
But I don't like the voiceover because he's
I don't
not
mind it.
really writing to anybody.
No, I know, but I don't mind
Sydney,
it.
I'm doing like you're not. Like I don't need that.
I don't mind.
I
it.
would rather have captions on the actual conversation.
I don't want to know these other people because these other people it's almost like they're faceless, they're nameless, they're not important. They're just, and they're not necessarily like, and I'm talking about the Khmer Rouge and anybody that has a gun and is trying to like empower their will to people. Not that they're nameless and faceless, like they're pure evil. Not even that, because they are in a situation where it's like, it's hell.
Well, plus half the people that are torturing him are children who don't know any better.
Oh my God. The fact that the children are just sitting there and they're walking along and he's with the cart and the kid just like the dude on the, basically he didn't say this, but the dude on the wagon, take him down. The kid's just picking people at random to go murder.
I think they know that they're smart because people are probably talking around kids, not thinking anything about
Maybe,
kids.
I don't know.
The little girl with the plastic bag at the end, taking that one guy out.
Like, you don't ever want to imagine like that. You don't ever want to imagine that kind of stuff. But that kind of stuff is what happens, is what is happening, and it is what happens. And it's just, and to your point about how, because when you were talking about how he was just like getting the Coca-Cola to kind of get there. Yeah. Like the fact that you're just walking on the street, like when the first when not the explosion, when they go investigate the town that was they screwed up, or the Americans screwed up and dumped their whole entire payload,
over 100 bombs.
Yeah, onto this one small town. And they go there and they are just they're just talking to people. And you just see dead kids, you see dead people, everyone, they're just laying there. And then the Jeep pulls up and they take somebody out and they just shoot them in the middle of the road and everyone's not doing anything. It's almost like as a matter of fact.
Yeah, the one guy's still picking whatever food he can out of the rubble.
Yeah, and it's
it's every day.
There's really nothing for you to do, because if you say something or speak up or say, "What are you doing?" they're gonna shoot you.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of life, that kind of hell, the hellscape on Earth, you can't imagine that, and you can't imagine the people that have to go through that. The fact that the Prawn's whole story and how he survives that and gets out, it's remarkable. It's amazing. But that, just the way that was shot, and I don't know if it's because it's an early 80s film, which is kind of probably more like a 70s film, there's kind of like that realism in style. There's kind of like a lot of movies back then were just shot as is.
Right.
I think that kind of adds to it. I think that kind of aids in the film.
That they shoot on location in a lot of areas or near there. They shoot in the area. It's not like Los Angeles doubling there's one scene I think is Los Angeles doubling. But for the most part,
I think it was a reshoot.
It was a reshoot, yeah.
San Diego.
Yes.
Yeah.
The rest of it's all actually filmed in Cambodia or Thailand.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's Thailand because I got help from Thailand. Like the jets that come in are Thailand jets painted with Vietnam colors.
Yes.
But it helps you. It makes you part of it. That destroyed city is probably a destroyed city that they go to. All that stuff is just really tough to watch. And these people are probably just like Haing himself, even though he's playing Prawn. He himself is an actual survivor.
I saw. He's
of the rebellion.
Yeah. And there was a couple of times where he had to leave the set because it was too real.
Much for him.
It was too much. And
so I'm sure a lot of those extras probably were as well.
Oh, totally. I mean, they're getting money, of course. I hope so. But yeah, totally. Yeah. It's really, I wondered that too, watching it. It's tough when you're portraying something that is
so close to you that actually happened.
And let's be honest, they find Prawn at the end of the movie when he gets himself to freedom and safety, and then he meets Sydney. That's like October of 1979. This movie's 84. So shot in 83. It's only 4 or 5 years.
It's very soon after.
Yeah.
Well, they even say at the end of the movie, some of it's still happening. It's very much the end of it, but it's still happening. And Cambodia went through 3 or 4 rebellions after that as well. Mm-hmm. So it's it wasn't the end of, it was the end of the super atrocities. But it wasn't the end of the strife that they had to go through.
We come in, United States comes in, do whatever we need to do. We leave, and we're like, see you later.
1999, I think, is when things kind of balanced out from what I read.
It's just, we can go down that road, but I don't want to.
That's not what this podcast is.
And it would depress and upset me. One of the other things I like in the film is a lot, and I know we just talked about how I like the voiceover, is that there's a lot of times in this movie they don't say everything that's happening. We already know it. We see it in. So for instance,
yes,
when the passport photo doesn't work, and he finds out that they did it, they did the passport, they got it, but then I guess it faded out. It went
because he had to ad hoc. Al basically tries to get Prawn a fake ID, a fake passport, so he's got to grab any camera he can and kind of develop it himself in a makeshift bathroom, dark room, and it keeps the chemical solution he's trying to mix up himself is just too strong. He's melting the image.
But he thinks he does it, and they put it into the passport, and then
by the time that the official reads it, the passport photo has been rubbed off.
Yes. So
or dissolved.
And Sydney goes back and he goes to tell Prawn, but they don't have any dialogue. They just sit there and you know it, and he knows it, and you know it, and you're just like. And then when he leaves, when Prawn's forced to leave, everyone's like, I love the dude that's yelling at Sydney. Like, why'd you make him stay?
Yeah. You shouldn't have made him stay. Yeah. It's your fault.
Yeah. And Prawn's like, no, I
love him like a brother. I am a reporter too. I'm a reporter too.
And they're mad, but he knows that he shouldn't be, it's just stuff like that. There's nothing they can do.
And Timber's in the background and Waterston is crying. They're holding
he's
back. He's holding back.
Yeah.
When he's at the porch, he cries a little bit and then stops himself.
Yeah. He's sobbing. He doesn't want to sob. Yeah. He wants to sob. He's trying to he's trying to hold it back. Yeah, totally. It's a really good scene.
I don't know how much of him, did that remind you anywhere of Ernest Hemingway stuff? Because it really reminded me of a lot of Hemingway, especially A Farewell to Arms.
Hemingway wrote during wartime, so yeah.
That kind of, but his style was always he's telling you the story through like the dialogue, and you're like getting a feel for it, but he doesn't really go, and we did this because this is this. It's just like, you can't go over these lines. We couldn't get the like he doesn't explain it, and you're just like get the feeling, oh, I guess they needed that to get across. It's the same thing with a lot of the stuff in the French consulate, and even before then, it's just like you get the information without getting the information, which I think is really cool.
Right. No, I think there's a lot of times they pull Swan away to tell him something, and then he's like, got to come back and let them know.
Yeah, there are a couple
stuff
times
like
really
that.
Yeah, I need you to translate this. Well, Pran's better at French. I think it should be you.
Right.
Yeah. The Cambodians can't stay.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm always somebody who enjoys brevity. I'm or kind of like, if you don't have to say things, don't in movies and stuff like that. And even I don't think books need to be 485 pages. I don't, you know what I mean? Like single space. Cause the book I just wrote is 420, but it's double. It's 1.5 space. 90,000 words. So I don't think movies need to be, we've talked about length of movies. I mean, this movie needs to be 220, obviously, but like if this movie was 250, when you start hitting 245, 250, cut your movie in half. Like, you know what I mean? Like
it's got to be like an epic, like Braveheart.
Sure. But Braveheart doesn't feel like 3 hours or however long it is. 2.5, 245.
It's like 245,
but it doesn't feel that. Braveheart, Braveheart
goes.
Like
the rousing epic kind of things. Yeah.
So so back to your point, yes, I appreciate that kind of writing, that kind of storytelling, filmmaking. Yeah. I like all of that. I want to just kind of, because it also, I think that helps you, that immerses you into the world. It helps you just kind of like,
it makes it real. Yeah.
You have to watch it. You can't just listen to the dialogue. You have to pay attention.
No one's explaining it to you. Yeah.
Now that might not go over well for some of the casual movie aficionados. Right. I get that. You really, I think this is definitely a film that you're really interested in the time period, like what they're talking about, matter. Or you're interested in film. And maybe we can get into that later on in terms of like, who we'd recommend it to and stuff like that. Sure. What did you think about, I'm going to say his name wrong again.
It's okay.
No, it's not okay, brother.
It's not okay, but it's okay.
What did you think about Hai Sung Woo News? I'm sorry. I know he's passed away, but I'm sorry. What do you think about his performance? Like, I don't want to say, did he deserve the Oscar? But what did you think about his performance?
I really liked it. I thought that it was very real. It was very, I mean, this guy doesn't have any acting experience, but like that, like I talked about already, when he's begging that guy eating the rice and he ends up getting him the Coca-Cola to like buy him off. Mm-hmm. Like that's great acting. There's a scene, I can't remember exactly where it is. I should have wrote my notes, where he does have a tear coming down his eye while he's talking. Like it's really good. And it really does hit him. There's scenes where like they're moving the cart or they're moving the ambulance. And they have to push the ambulance. I don't know why they have to push the ambulance. If they're pretending to be people that work for the Red Cross there.
Maybe. It might be like kind of like a ploy.
Well, we'll get you out, but you have to act like you're
maybe
doing this.
Or maybe they're, yeah.
And he's just like looking around, like just a little moments like that. And like you mentioned that he had to leave set a couple times. The fact that it actually is hitting him emotionally, but that's what you want when you act. So it's like, yes, is that a little bit of like maybe like that's a cheat code? That's like a secret sauce is if you actually went through the atrocity, you're going to feel the atrocity in the movie. Sure. But he's doing it, which is great.
Some people wouldn't be able to handle it though.
Exactly. That's also true. So he's really good at that. The end when he's just so elated to see Schanberg again and he jumps into his arms and they're hugging. It's like, that's real friendship. That's like a real thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, because that reminds me of the quote, like of the comment on how Joffe got the job. Putnam was going to different directors, talking with different directors about doing the movie. And the reason why he kind of got one with Joffe was Joffe told him that it's not a war story. It's a love story between Pran and Schanberg. Mm-hmm. And he was like, all right, okay. So which you get that. You kind of see that absolutely in the movie and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting. To your point about Pran and his acting, I had a quote. I didn't write it down, but I remember Malkovich was talking. They were talking to Malkovich about, Ngor's he's not an actor. He's not how is he, able to do this? And he's like, he has to act. He has to act.
He had to act his
real life, his entire time when he lived through this. He has to. He's natural. So I thought that was a great note.
He had to do what Pran did as well because he had to because he was they don't say he was a doctor, but he was a medical professional.
He's a journalist, right? He's a photographer.
Oh no, Haing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He was a medical professional, so he actually went through it as well, where he had to act dumb and he had to act like he wasn't smart, and he was because they were shooting doctors, and his own wife didn't get him when she was having the child. She was bleeding out, and she couldn't get him because he would have exposed himself as a doctor, would have done anything to save her, and she died basically to save him, her, and her unborn child.
I mean, like, I don't mean to blow into the mic like that, but cheers, Lord.
Yeah. So when he's experiencing things, it's like he might not be Prawn, but he's experienced, like, he knows where Prawn was coming from that entire time.
Yeah. Just
the scene where they're escaping and the guy holding the child hits the landmine. I won't give him the child and steps off the landmine.
Oh, I know. Right.
And then he's running with the child.
So at the end of the movie, because Prawn basically gets captured by a different faction of the Khmer Rouge, and the guy
disillusioned.
Yeah, he wants to see if he's smart. He keeps testing him, and Prawn thinks it's because he wants to kill him, but it's really because he wants to entrust him. I think he wants to entrust him with his child because he doesn't. And the way that guy dies is just like he goes to the dude. Like he goes to, hey, it's almost like, hey man, what are you doing? And he's just like, shut up. Like he just shoots him.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, all right. And yeah. So then Prawn takes the kid, and the kid didn't have a chance. That was my note. Like he never had a chance, like in terms of like when they were trying to get through all that stuff and trying to get, follow the path and stuff like that. It was just like,
well, the kid would have had trouble climbing the mountain afterwards.
Yeah. So yes. Yeah. That would have been tough. Of course.
But so you're just in somebody's arms. You're like, you have no control over that.
Right.
Oof.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of oof when we're watching this. Not that we're trying to make light, but it really puts in your perspective just kind of, everything.
Everyone's place in the world. Yeah.
Oh, totally. 100%. What did you think of Sam Waterston?
I thought he was
Even though
good.
I forgot whose name from Law and Order. I liked Sam Waterston.
I thought he was good. He did really well in the role. I felt like him and Prawn actually had a relationship. When he gets back to America, I like his scenes. He really seems legitimately upset with everything that went down. He seems upset with himself. I like his speech, his acceptance speech when he gets the journalism award. And I love the conversation between Al and Sydney right afterward in the bathroom, where Al comes at him, goes, "You shouldn't. You left him.
Yeah.
You should have done more to save him." And he's like, "What more do you want me to do?
I can't get in there.
I have 75,000 letters. I've sent 75,000 letters.
He's like, this isn't the 40s. I can't hop on a plane and go.
I can't go to Cambodia. They won't let me. If they let me, I'd be there right now."
Yeah.
And Al's just like, "Well, you shouldn't have been there to begin with." And he's all mad about it. It's a really good scene between the two of them, and you really feel Sydney Schanberg's like regret and turmoil about living for what we find out at the end was 5-6 years without him.
Yeah. I think that scene and all the other scenes with the American and British actors and improv stuff. I think one of the things, one of these movies, a real pitfall or a real kind of like pothole that you could get into as a filmmaker and as a writer is this type of movie you put together. You can get really melodramatic with the writing, really melodramatic with just kind of like the sadness, the music.
The scene where Sydney walks over to his own bathroom and starts sobbing to himself.
Stuff like that. You can really dive into that. And there's plenty of other movies that do that. But this movie doesn't do that. And I think that's a real testament to the director and the writer and the actors that it's as close to a documentary as you can get without it being a documentary, but it's got tons of drama in it.
Right.
And that is a testament to the acting. And it just goes to show you don't have to chew every single scene. You don't have to, have your moment in every single movie or every single, in order for you to really convey, what you're trying to convey in the film. And I think that scene that you're talking about with Malkovich and Waterston in the bathroom, I think that's a really good scene. It's messy. It's sloppy. It's, hey, they're yelling. They're not making any sense.
Yeah.
That's the scene when I talked about where the journalist yells at him for, why didn't you, like whole thing I just said before.
When they're questioning him on
No. The same scene I'm talking about when Prawn was
when there's that whole scene,
that whole, when he's walking through everyone, that's like, it's like you're watching like a stage play. It's like you're watching a doc. It's realism. And I think it only helps the film. So if this film was scored by somebody with more of a John Williams sentiment kind of thing, like really like grandiose, like you say, orchestral moments.
Music,
I think maybe it wouldn't work as much as it. I just like the way it is as we saw it. Maybe I just like that so much that I'm glad it wasn't like on something else that we've seen before. I don't know. I don't know why I responded to this film the way it was put together so strongly compared to other films.
Well, I think strong music things or this film also doesn't have an over reliance on close-ups.
Yep.
Like you said, it's stage play like. It's like actually being there in the action. It puts your boots on the ground. It forces you to focus because you're not like given like the cues of like, all right, here's the close-up of sad and now back to the wide shot. It's like you have to see Waterston holding back tears. You have to see the other guy yelling while Prawn is still saying goodbye to other people, pretending like or acting like it's okay and everything's going to be good. Like that helps the power of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have, like you said, if you have music over it, it makes you feel sure, but it also underscores or undercuts the actors in the scene as well. And the importance of the scene.
Do you think that, and I don't know this answer, do you think that if that scene had sweeping music and it was like it was something that really like, you know, if it had that,
sure,
and then you finish watching the film and then you think about it and you go back, does it lessen the effect of what you're watching on screen in terms of the realism of the moment rather than the great score? Like if, like, you know, a lot of times
it would be distracting,
right? Like a lot
Sure.
of times when you watch films, we're like, oh, that has a great score. That scene has that's a great musical beat. But like, you never really talk about what happens in the scene sometimes.
But at the same time, as a counterpoint, not that I don't agree with you.
I'm only asking the question.
Yeah. Schindler's List.
Sure.
The score is top notch.
Sure.
And super sad. And it's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's obviously one of the greatest scores of all time. Like it's everyone, most people who love film know the Schindler's List score.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that undercuts the power of any of the scenes or the power of that movie at all.
Right.
So I think there's ways and times and places where it could work. In terms of this, I think it underscores just because of the less cinematic nature of that shot and that scene of being able to see everything and everyone all at once.
And I think what we're talking about is what I said in the beginning, or not the beginning, but when I said towards the beginning of the episode, was that this film is shot very much like it's got 70s fingerprints all over it.
Yes.
And I think that has a lot to do with.
We're going to shoot it once in the wide and we're not doing
which
close-ups.
I wish I could shoot everything in the wide.
We're done. That was good. One shot field.
There's nothing wrong with one shot. But anyways, so I asked you if you like Sam Waterston. Would you have liked this film if it was Roy Scheider, Alan Arkin, Dustin Hoffman? Because they all were interested in the role.
I don't think I would like it if it was Dustin Hoffman.
I think Roy Scheider. But
I think Roy Scheider could have been good. I think his acting style and his sensibility would have been very close to Waterston. I haven't seen enough young Alan Arkin stuff to really know. When I see Alan Arkin, it's a lot of his older stuff.
Sure.
The more modern things now. So I couldn't tell you for that.
Because they wanted to, and then I guess Joffe Putnam's producer already had chosen Waterston. So they were afraid that the studio was going to force, like if Roy Scheider went to the studio and was like, I want to be in this, they were going to be like, can you put him in this? Because he's
a big
more of a
star,
name than Sam Waterston. And so they, to kind of counteract that, they over exaggerated the danger of the location shoot to the actors so that they would be like, maybe not. Although it was still dangerous. So I just,
you're still in a war-torn area.
So I thought that was
Nearby.
interesting too. I didn't realize Spalding Gray, who's in it for a hot second, he plays the U.S. consul. He basically is like, he's the one that Schanberg talks to, trying to get Prawn's family on, and
he's trying to get information.
Exactly. He wrote a monologue about his experience shooting this movie, and it became, he filmed it. It's called Swimming to Cambodia, if anyone's interested.
Did you watch it?
I did not. Did you?
No.
I see these notes and I'm just like, we got the show to record.
It's weird that he's the one doing because he's not in a lot of the movie.
But he probably was there for quite a bit. But also you're there in the region where a lot of this stuff,
it's like you're still
happened.
seeing stuff.
So it's not like you're in a third world country. So it's not like you're going to be, that kind of stuff is going to affect you.
Well, he's in Thailand.
True. But well, now maybe, but back then, no.
In the 70s.
Yeah. So yeah, I get that.
But I don't see how this movie can't affect you, even like just acting in it.
I think if this movie doesn't affect you in any way, then I don't think you have feelings. And we always joke that we don't have feelings, but like we're joking. I mean, come on.
Mostly joking.
Well, I think,
but something like this, absolutely.
Well, that's the point. When we talk about often that we're sarcastic or we're not jokey, but just kind of like, what's the word? Acerbic? No. What's the word I'm looking for?
Assholes?
No. I think it's because we're just inundated with, idiotic things that happen every day that shouldn't happen. Like,
Sure.
This is real. Like all the stuff that we experience and all the stuff that people complain about, they should shut up when
stuff like this is happening.
Because they have no idea what life's like. They have no idea what life is like for some people. And not that I want to get on a high horse, and I'm sorry if I am. But if you think I am, then you really need to kind of like,
as you sit here in your studio recording a podcast.
Listen, I know that I'm
film.
extremely lucky, not as super lucky as some people, but but I know that I absolutely know that. And my complaints are kind of irrelevant to people who can barely know where they're going to get their food sometimes.
Yeah,
So
when you watch this, you're just like, no, okay.
Exactly. What I wanted to ask you, now I'll get back down. What I wanted to ask you was the shot of Shamberg after they have the 8-month time jump to December. Right. So like he's in New York.
Yeah.
And they got the Twin Towers in the shot.
Sure.
Is that the same location as Munich? Do you remember Munich? Did you see Munich?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember at the end of Munich when he goes to meet him and he's like, come break bread with me? He's like, no, like that whole thing.
Oh, the same location.
Where do you think that? I think that's the same area.
I mean, I think I've seen that area filmed a couple times.
Maybe.
So
That's probably fair.
Probably.
But that's that in Munich, which is an awesome film, underrated Spielberg film, which I love.
Also a darker film.
Yes, but super underrated in terms of Spielberg's movies. No one ever talks about Munich.
Munich, I think, is on our list. We just haven't done it.
Like, it's such a good film, and it's got so many really cool moments, and it's dark. Butler's right; it's a really dark film. But everyone ever talks Spielberg, they always talk about, obviously the Raiders and Close Encounters and Jaws and all that stuff. But like, there was a stretch of movies that he has done. He's whatever. I don't know. He's fantastic. But anyways,
Get off the horse again, man.
I know, right? What am I doing? So,
but it could be the same shot.
I think it is.
There are two shots that blew me away in this movie. One is very similar, again, to Spielberg and Raiders, when they're first getting permission to go to the bombed town, and it's sunset and everyone's silhouette.
That's the shot that you see in all the posters. And
It's the poster shot.
And he's yelling at him, we got to get there.
It's gorgeous. I love that.
No, it's
shot.
not acceptable. Yeah, he's just yelling at him.
It's a great shot. And the other shot that made me go, what, is when the bomb goes off when they're at the Allen sitting at the cafe
in the beginning,
and the fire engulfs them.
My note is like
they got hit by the bomb.
Yeah, my note is like that explosion is right on them. Like,
my note is, oof, they ate that explosion.
Yes,
it's incredible. Like and there's no note about it. I wanted to know about that shot. Like, did it go wrong?
It's bad. It's like, oh my god,
clearly, and that's the actors getting hit. Like. It's not CG. This is 1983, probably when they're shooting this.
43. Yep.
Like, no, holy crap.
Totally. While we're on that, on Shamberg, was Waterston doing an accent? Was he doing a Boston accent?
I thought he was doing like
it wasn't New Yorker.
It was like, I think it was, he was trying to do a New York accent, but like not like trying to make it subtle. So like some words he would slip in, kind of like.
I thought it sounded like he was doing like a Kennedy accent.
No, I think he was just slipping it in once in a while. Be like, oh yeah, see my characters from New York.
All right, okay. I didn't know. I was like,
I noticed that too. Occasionally, I was like, but you didn't sound like that just 2 seconds. I was like, whatever. Okay.
Two things I wanted to ask you as well, and I don't think you know the answers to this.
Okay.
Why did he kill that lizard?
To eat him.
Okay. Wait, flick his head.
Flicked his head to break his neck.
And why is he drinking blood out of the yaks?
That I couldn't tell you. He's not getting any nutrition from that.
Maybe that's what it is.
I've never been starving. So maybe at a last desperate attempt, he's like, I'm going to drink some blood from this yak.
Yeah.
But your body doesn't process blood like that. It's not going to help you.
I don't know, man. Maybe this is Cambodia. Maybe
unless his plan was to like spit the blood out and act like he was dying or something. I don't know.
No.
I did not know the yak. The lizard was for eating.
Yeah.
But the other part,
he flicks it with his finger.
Yep.
Yeah.
God damn, die, you little son of a...
Oh, come on now. Poor lizard.
I did feel bad for the lizard. We got to eat.
Roger Ebert wrote in the Chicago Sun-Times, this movie sucks. No. The film is a masterful achievement on all technical levels. It does an especially good job of convincing us with its Asian locations, but the best moments, whatever that means, but the best moments are the human ones. The conversations, the exchanges of trust, the waiting around, the sudden fear, and the quick bursts of violence and the desperation.
Waiting around in the sudden fear is where this movie
I don't know.
shines.
I don't know why the Asian locations were such a big thing with Roger, but all right.
Maybe just like the sound Asian locations. I mean, it does kind of like, it's got a nice ring to it.
I guess. Joel Simon of the National Review wrote, for all its flaws, which were, The Killing Fields is an important, indeed necessary film. I don't like, what flaws?
I think maybe he had some of the same opinions I did about like the split in half thing and then the captions.
Whatever. So I guess, Butler, who would you recommend this to?
People who like films, who can handle sitting through a 2 hour and 20-minute 80s, or like you said, basically 70s films, because that's basically like sitting through a 4 hour film nowadays.
Yeah.
It's not, I guess I don't want to say it's a slog, but they do seem long. But if you like filmmaking, if you want to see a different way filmmaking is done, like I said, we don't cut the close up all the time. We stay in the wide. We see the whole scene. There's not a lot of music. It's also something you could probably film this, like ways that those films are shot and filmed. Like you could do that today with a camera. All that kind of technology, all the way they're shooting, you could do that easily with today's technology, which I think is good for film students to watch and learn from and all that kind of stuff. I think it's an important film for people to watch, but I can't, like Joe Schmo on the street, watch Killing Fields.
Joe Schmo.
It's a lot of fun, Joe. He's going to be like, no, I'm Joe Schmo. I don't like that. But if you like things that talk about history and you're interested in history and you want to learn more about things that maybe aren't taught in school, this is one to kind of to watch if you're really interested in that.
To be fair, and I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
To be fair, the scene that they're trying to get him the passport,
right?
That didn't happen in real life. That's just something that they made up for the movie.
Well, there's some people like Al. The guy, the real life Al, was not a fan of this film.
Really?
The way they were depicted.
Yeah.
And there was another advisor on the film who wanted his name off the credits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're not going to please everybody.
Exactly.
I think
it's still going to be a heightened version of what happened.
But like the fact that we sat here for 45 minutes, if that's how long this thing was going, talking about how the importance of this film, the film did its job. Like that's why that's the reason for film. We 100%. All know it's all fictional narrative. Yes, obviously it's telling a story. Yes, that's more important. But the important nature of this film, it's just, it really hits home.
Going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say this too, in terms of recommending this movie, there maybe was a time, maybe like 10, 15, 20 years in starting with like Platoon and stuff like that, like around there, like all those movies, Full Metal Jacket. There's not a lot of films now that kind of go into the Vietnam War anymore.
No,
it wasn't a popular war.
But there are films. But this is like,
no, I know. But I'm saying, if in terms of recommending a movie that's from that time, that would be why, because there's really nothing.
There's nothing about Afterward for sure.
But there's really nothing in the last 5-10 years that I could really point to thinking about it in that region during that time.
20 years. Yeah. We Were Soldiers is the only thing I could think of. Oh, and no, Thin Red Line is World War II. Yeah. We Were Soldiers is the only Vietnam one I can think of.
Yeah. Like I would love them to do like how they did Band of Brothers for World War II. They would love them to do something.
Oh, like that do one for Vietnam would be really good.
I mean, like I said, it's not a popular war, and it's not a great. Well, we shouldn't even have been there. Absolutely. It's not a great time. I get it, but like I still think that to honor the soldiers that gave their lives for that, and to honor just stories that are in there that
can be told.
It should be told. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I mean, it's definitely. I'd be interested to see if that ever comes back around. Everything's cyclical, so you never know. But I think that in terms of recommending this film, that's probably one reason why I would recommend it as well, along the other reasons why you said. It's just a good film. And if you like films and you like movies, you like writing, and you like, if you're somebody that always watches the Academy Awards and always makes sure to watch every single Academy Award movie, which I do, and try, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. If that's your thing, why wouldn't you go back and watch the stuff that's won before? I mean, why wouldn't you? So yeah, where can they find us?
You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com, where you can find links to our merch store and our Patreon page. We have a Patreon, and it's free to join. Once you join, you can enter our Discord, where we talk about films. Let us know what you thought of The Killing Fields, other maybe Vietnam War films that we're maybe missing that came out recently, or anything about films. We want to build a film community, and that's kind of where we want to start and grow is on the Patreon and the Discord. And have conversations with you guys. And if you feel so inclined, you can also subscribe to our Patreon and get exclusive access to special shows like our lead up series. We did Ghostbusters. We did Roadhouse. We just finished up Planet of the Apes, the newer films. And then we're going to do the Alien series all summer long. So if you want to hear us talk about films that we normally wouldn't cover, that's where it's going to be, along with a bunch of other extra awesome perks. We think they're awesome. So please support the show. And also, while you're watching this, if you liked what we were talking about, Please make sure to like, rate, subscribe, comment. I know every YouTuber says it, but it really is important. It really does help the channel grow. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just one click. It's right there. Should be on the bottom of your screen. It looks like a thumb that's pointing up. So click
down there.
Click that.
All right, cool. Yeah, join us next week. We're going to be 1990. Joe versus the Volcano. Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, John Candy. Right? No, it's volunteers. Never mind. So that's Joe versus the Volcano. I'm confusing my Tom Hanks films. That'll be next week. A little bit lighter subject. Yeah, we hope you've seen The Killing Fields. If you haven't, please do. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.